This meeting is being recorded.
I still can't get used to that.
No, I know. It's just, I wonder what thought mechanism goes into choosing the voice that does that, you
I don't
know?
know. Yeah, I
Because
don't know.
they could have chosen, any accent in the world. I'm not surprised they've chosen an American accent because they're an American company. So okay, fine.
Yeah.
But male versus female versus, which regional accent and all that kind of stuff. Did you see in the paper? Not in the paper, on BBC website the weekend. They were saying that apparently London and Essex accents are considered to be the least intelligent. Really? Because there are some accents that I can think of that you think, really, okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the study was. I just saw the headline. I didn't look at
No.
it in any detail. Anyway, right, ready to rock?
Ready to rock, indeed we are.
Fabulous. So hold on. What are we? 110.
Yeah.
Yeah, blimey.
Yeah. Blimey. Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. This is Trainer Talk, the podcast, brought to you by Sharon Gaskin of the Trainers Training Company and me, Jeanette Tessier of the Get That Gang. In our weekly show, we cover news and views from our businesses along with a top-of-mind topic. Of course, it wouldn't be Trainer Talk, the podcast, without the Dog Walking Digest, and every now and again we invite a guest along to share their experience and expertise. After 90 episodes of just audio, we're now on YouTube as well. So feel free to catch up there. Just search for the Trainers Training Company or the Get That Gang, or download us on audio only through your favourite podcast streamer. So why not sit back with a cuppa, make that journey or chore go a little bit quicker with our weekly inspiration for developing your training business. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Training Talk, the podcast, and we're at episode 110, 110. Oh my goodness. How are you, Sharon? How's tricks? How's things? I won't ask about the tennis, but apart from that, how's everything else?
Everything is certainly a lot better than it was this time last week. Let's put it that way.
Good, good,
'Cause,
good, good.
Last week, if you're going to ask me about my week, like you generally do, then last week, although we will talk about it, it was actually one to forget. Just, it was very, very weird. I think so last week on Sunday, have we talked about this already? You see, I'm forgetting. I'm literally forgetting. So when we did the podcast last week,
Yes.
we talked about the fact that the house sale fell through. Had we talked about
Yes,
that?
we talked about
Yes,
that,
we
and
did talk
then
about that.
we talked about the new people who came along because we recorded it on Tuesday last week, didn't we?
Ah, that's it. So we've
So-
already gone through all this, right?
So,
Okay.
well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we had got to the point where they came around and they put the offer in before they'd even finished walking around the
That
house.
was that
but
was
that's
it. That was
it.
it.
So
That's it. Right. Okay. So then I was, and that was the day where I was in the throes of my COVID jab reaction, which
Yes.
which just like compared to last time was virtually nothing, but I still felt a bit odd.
yeah,
This just felt a bit weird.
yeah.
And so, oh yes, I just remembering now. Sorry, listeners,
worry.
it's all coming back to me. We recorded the podcast on the Tuesday afternoon,
Yeah,
didn't we?
we did.
Yeah, that was
Yes.
the Monday.
Yes.
Yes, right. So yes. So on Tuesday I was feeling a lot better. We recorded the podcast, etc., etc. And then on Wednesday morning, I received a phone call from the estate agent, who I have to say, every time her name flashes up on my phone, I go, oh God, what is it
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
What is it now? And I could tell by the tone of her voice that something was not right. And I just thought, oh God, literally had that sinking feeling in my stomach, that
I know.
the stomach like flipped over, and I was like, oh no, right. And she said, and I quote, that the people who had put the offer in on Monday, who we thought it was all far too good to be true, had decided to withdraw it because something had come to their attention. And when she asked them what had come to their attention, and she said, well, it's come to our attention that your house has got subsidence. And I was like, what are you talking
News
about?
to you, right? Yeah.
What are you talking about? And also, how has this come? It's not true, but how has this come to your attention? And she said, oh, somebody told them around the corner. and I was like, literally, I was so angry because I was like, I don't even know these people. Who are they to be saying these things? You know, never even been in our house. How the hell do they know?
Exactly.
And so I just said to her, well, it hasn't. It's got subsidence, and you know, we've got a survey to prove it, which we only had just over a year ago when we moved. And so, what are you talking about? And she said, I know. I told them that, but he said, oh, well, you know, he was a bit concerned. So we just forward in the copy of the survey on, and then went through this sort of agonising wait then the rest of the day while they, you know, perused contents of said survey, and then decided that, oh yeah, there wasn't subsidence after all, and came back on the phone and then said, okay, everything's fine, and they apologised for the misunderstanding.
They apologised. That's the bit to focus on.
That was
the
it.
bit
Yeah,
to focus on.
at least. So I just then went through the week hadn't got off to a good start, and then it got off. There was a better start, but I was feeling a bit weird. And on Wednesday, it all sort of came back again. I don't know whether it was the stress of everything that was going on, or whether it was hormones, or whether it was the COVID jab, or whatever. But I just felt like, oh my God, I had this terrible headache and all that kind of stuff. And I literally. And I just feel terrible about this, but I had, my manageable marketing thing on a Wednesday morning, and to be fair, I also had the builders here as well.
Yeah.
Not here, but they were outside the office and doing their drilling and everything, putting the wall up, taking the wall down, putting the fencing up and stuff. And I just thought, I just can't do this for a variety of reasons. I just cannot do this. One, I can't hear myself think. Two, I can't even think. So
Fair.
So it was just a very, very, very weird week. And I think I kept saying to you last week, didn't I? Is it only Tuesday? Is it only Wednesday? And it just felt like it was like, oh. Then of course there was the tennis, which we won't talk about. But that was, it's like everything this week was like, oh dear.
Oh dear. But you've got some good news on the horizon insofar as you've managed to pin number one son down.
Pin number one. How many sons have I got?
Well, number one son, number one daughter. It's a thing.
Yes, indeed. Well, just in case, just to confirm that I do only have one son. Yes, he is coming back from America on the 27th of June, I believe. Which would be nice for a month. So got that to look forward to. And and actually I've had some even better news, because they've just phoned from the phone flashed up again. I was like, oh God, what is it now? No, but they want to book the survey. And
Yay!
Okay.
Brilliant. Good.
Let's hope they actually turn up this time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you'd be all right. I mean, considering they've already had a copy of your survey,
everything is in there,
exactly.
And most of which we've actually done. So they've seen everything that's in there, and nothing much will have changed in a year other than all the improvements that have been made.
Exactly. So they'll understand what a complete and utter bargain they're getting.
Plus this beautiful fencing that we've got outside my window now.
You'll have to send me a photo and I'll superimpose it onto the YouTube version.
The wall is no more. The fence is
dear, that poor wall.
But did I tell you when they took it down?
Yeah.
All that hassle and the ridiculous going on about it, most of it was literally at ground level.
Yeah.
Just totally ridiculous.
Yeah. Crazy. But anyway, it's done. We don't have to worry about it anymore. You've got a beautiful new fence for however long you're there for. So it's all good. It's all good.
It's all good. So in between all that, I did manage to do some things last week. So I did manage to do the More Than Membership week 6.
Yes, the final one.
A final one. Well, it was a bit of we had a couple of sessions last week. So we had we had 3. So we had the catch-up session for week 5. We had my training session on Tuesday afternoon, which was all about how to get people to join your membership. And then we had Terry's bonus session on the Wednesday.
Yeah.
Which was about gamification. And then this morning we had our final catch-up session. So More Than Membership is no more.
Oh.
So done and dusted. Some very nice comments this morning on the catch up, and some testimonials will be coming
Good.
our way, I'm sure. And this course, was an experiment, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So, so done, dusted, it's out there.
It is, absolutely. And you don't have to design the slides anymore.
Oh, if I run it again, that's it. All I have to do is just turn up.
Exactly. But I did see there was one cracking testimonial from somebody who I think couldn't make it this morning. In the Facebook group, there was a nice little line in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
really nice,
so
really nice. So definitely use that for future marketing for when you do run it again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Notice the when, not if.
Exactly.
Yes,
you just have to find the right place to squeeze it in, really, and amongst everything else.
Well,
right?
Exactly. That's the thing. But no, I'm glad I did it because, I almost didn't like all of these things. It was at one stage it was feeling very heavy. It was feeling like a big thing, like 6 weeks having to do, come up, and also something that I was. As we talked about, I had a little bit of imposter syndrome about, I was kind of like, oh God, who am I to be teaching other people about memberships? I don't know. It's not like I've got this massively huge membership and
just a really successful one. That's all. Yeah.
Well, yeah. But so it did. But I'm glad that I was encouraged to move out of my comfort zone and do it and get it done.
Brilliant.
So, job done.
Yay! Tick. Marvellous. That's really cool. Really, really cool on that. Brilliant. All right. Anything else business-wise from last week?
I don't think so. We did the complete train on Friday, which I'm sure you're going to talk about in the roundup of your week, because it was mainly you, because I went off to the gym halfway through.
You did, yes. Now, would you have rather stayed or rather, how was the gym session?
Yeah, exactly. Just to point out, everybody, not that I'm being rude about that, it's just that I had to have a little bit of shift round, which is why we're recording this podcast in the afternoon. Because Ian, my trainer's decided, well, he's not decided. Due to his circumstances, he's having trouble doing afternoons at the moment. So I've had to kind of like rejig everything. So yes, I wasn't being rude, disappearing halfway through the next session.
Exactly. No, it was fine. I knew about it beforehand, and it's one of those things, isn't it? Because we know that in the next round of the complete trainer, I think there's one session. Although, maybe not. Given circumstances and imminent announcements about lockdown restrictions easing and all that kind of stuff, who knows what's going to happen? Or lockdown restrictions not easing should be more to the point. But anyway, there are just times when, with the best will in the world, we can't both be at everything the other one's doing for stuff that we're doing together, or programs that we're running together. It's impossible. So that's fine. That's why part of the one of the good things about collaborations is that you do have somebody else that you can rely on to do something when you're not able to do it yourself. But I'm sure we can talk about collaborations at some point. You had a post in Trainer Talk about a potential spotlight.
You saw that? Yeah. So, nobody's pitched up yet and offered their hand up to come.
Well, we can do it.
We could do it, but I do need people to kind of be present. Because that's the whole. What I didn't want is a load of people to turning up who haven't actually collaborated, because then we haven't got anything to draw on, have we? So definitely. Well, we can nag Chris Morrison and Inga Woodstra, because I've collaborated with both of them. And you, of course. So it's all good. It's all good. So my week last week was pretty normal, except it had the addition of some lovely meetups with some trainers who have been on your Transform program. Starting to record the testimonials for those, which is really good. And it's funny when you give people a choice of, you can record your own testimonial to camera, or you can be interviewed by Jeanette, just book a Zoom meeting, etc. Every single person seems to have booked a Zoom meeting. I don't know if you've had anybody that said, no, it's fine,
I'll just do
No, I
my own.
haven't.
They all want to have a little chat with me, so that's fine. Even though, I mean, most of the ones I've done so far, I've already done it for future fit. So I said, well, you know how this works. It's, here are the questions, away you go.
Yeah.
But it's been great, so getting some really lovely stuff for that. More of those this week as well. On Wednesday, I nearly didn't have the first one with the lovely Dr. Emma Williams, because I was going out to the gym in the morning, and I'd forgotten my headband. I have these Hugger headbands that I use instead of having to take a towel to stop perspiration getting in my eyes. And I realised I'd forgotten it, and it's obviously been quite hot weather. Well, here it's been quite hot weather. Sorry. During the middle of last week.
I just laughed and fall off my chair.
You moved to Wales. That's all. Hashtag just saying. But on Wednesday last week, it was a lovely day, and I thought I'm definitely going to need my my headband. Can't do without it in the summer months, and especially not with hot flushes and things going on at the moment. I mean, let's not go there. So I'd got outside. I was running a little bit late anyway, so I put the key back in the front door to open the front door, opened it, and as I was walking in, intending to take the key out to run back upstairs to go and get my headband, and managed to bend the key in the lock. I was thinking, oh crap, okay, all right, fine. So I sort of took it out, and it was kind of bent over like this. So ran upstairs, and it's a different lock for the upstairs door, so that was fine. Got in, said hi bye to the dog, who was like in the middle of still eating his treat from the first time I'd left, going, what are you doing back? So got the headband, ran downstairs, and thought, right, what can I do? Can I bend it back again? So that was an idea that was best left in the head, really, because as I put it in and went to bend it back, of course it broke in two. So I'd broken my front door key in two, and I'm thinking, well, not going to the gym is just going to make me more grumpy than going to the gym. I still have a broken key whether I go to the gym or not, so I might as well go to the gym. So I went to the gym, and then at the end of the boot camp class, I was saying to people, oh, does anybody know if there's locksmiths around here? What do you reckon? Do you think they will? Because I had both pieces. Luckily, it had broken off, and I could actually get the piece that had broken out of the lock. So one of the guys there gave me the number of the people that they use for their work for locksmiths and that kind of thing, and he directed me in to the locksmith. All in all, went in there, somebody else had to give me a mask, didn't have my mask with me. What I had done when I got the headband was I got my purse, thinking, right, I'll take that with me so I can process what I'm going to do just in case. Realising that the class finished at 10 and I had to get back and get showered and changed and ready for Emma's testimonial interview at 11. So it was all sort of like, oh, is this going to happen or not? But got there, used the mask that I'd been given, so fresh mask, and had two bits, and sort of walked in and said, oh, please help me, front door key. Don't you have a spare? Yes, I do, but it's it's more than half an hour away because Mum's got the spare, just in case. But it's more than half an hour away, and I knew I wouldn't have time to sort of get there, get that, get back, and do everything necessary to interview Emma. Not that it would have minded. I'm not on camera for the testimonial videos. I just need to be here to ask the questions. But you don't think like that when you're in the middle of doing everything. So yes, but I lost half an hour maybe out of my day. It was fab. So I was only a couple of minutes late for talking to Emma, and you wouldn't have been able to tell anything was different. But I now have a new front door key, thank goodness. But that was a bit of an interesting start to the morning. But the rest of the day was those, and having chats with various clients and things that they wanted done on their websites and that kind of thing, which was good. And I was saying to you earlier when we had a quick catch up, really pleased over the weekend that I managed to crack a couple of tough nuts in terms of working out how to do something on a client's website, and it's one that I didn't build, but it was built quite some time ago, and there's been an awful lot of adaptation done to the coding, which means trying to hunt down something to change it is a bit of a needle in a haystack job, looking through the various files. But I managed to fix I think 2 or 3 things over the weekend which had been bugging me that I couldn't find. I could find the bit that said it was the bit that needed changing, but it didn't do anything. So it's like, well, now I need to go and hunt down the bit that feeds that bit, and all very complicated, but managed to do it. So that was a success. On Friday, we had the final module of the Complete Trainer. So
We did.
isn't that weird how we've managed to finish the last Complete Trainer and finish more than membership in the same week, right? Really odd. So we did the final module, which was all about systems, and instead of running this one as a webinar, I ran it as a meeting presentation so that we could take advantage of all the cool tools in Zoom. So the whiteboard particularly, not whiteboard, the annotation functionality particularly was really useful, but also so that we could have more of a discussion feel to it for people, and it seemed to go down really well. So I'll definitely keep it like that for the next one. I might change the delivery module to be the same as well, actually, because that seemed to work really well for people. So that was really good. And then got a bunch of other stuff done. Had a barbecue on Saturday, another barbecue at Mum's. So by the end of the barbecue, we had we'd used the barbecue 200% more than they used it last year. Which was like, okay, so that's twice we've used it. Because last year all of the good weather was during the first lockdown and the first restrictions, because I said to Mum, you forget we didn't see each other for about 14 weeks because it was the lockdown and they didn't institute bubbles. And then the date in which we could have formed a bubble, she had her her wrist operation coming up, so she had to self-isolate anyway. That was interesting, sort of thinking about that, but it was lovely. It was very nice food. And yesterday, God, it was so hot walking the dogs yesterday, but we can talk about that in the dog walking digest. So kind of up to date, really. Although big laughs in the gym this morning because our the gym owner and our instructor for the boot camp on a Monday morning fell asleep outside his beach hut over the weekend, and he's got a very red stomach.
Well, I was thinking the same thing about, did you see watching the football yesterday afternoon, that he kept cutting to the shots of like fans, with blokes with their tops off. Why do they always do that? And they're doing all this and that. And I'm like, I bet they haven't got sun cream.
Of course not.
Of course it's like 30 degrees and they're with their tops off like this.
I know. Oh, yeah. I think it's a funny old thing, isn't it? You sort of in weather like this, it's like I don't know why men feel the need to sort of take the tops off. But anyway, it's when you see them doing it when they're walking their dogs. It's just like, oh really? Nobody needs to see that. Thank you. But anyway, that's a whole other subject that we can get into, right?
Regardless of what kind of body they've got, I don't like it. I just think it's
don't want to see it.
It's a little bit on the uncouth side, isn't it?
Yes, I agree, absolutely. Showing our age, but anyway, yes. Absolutely brilliant. All right, so that's a catch up of our weeks. Do you want to introduce the topic for today, or shall I?
Well, you can, but before you do that, I was just laughing. Well, not laughing. I was going, because I did have a missed call from estate agent.
Oh no!
I think I know, but I think I know what it's about because we've just been WhatsApping about. So I think it's okay. And she hasn't left a voicemail, so.
Oh, good. So it's not.
She's WhatsApping. Yeah, I don't think.
If it's important, they'll leave a voicemail.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to stop this every time she brings something like it.
It's like a Pavlovian response now, isn't it? Oh God, what's happened?
What is it?
Oh dear.
Right. All right. Talk about top of mind, because this came from one of your little videos. It
did, but interestingly, you've also been reading a book that had a little bit about it as well. I mean, speaking of the videos, I reached 100. Last week, so that's 100 videos. Thank you very much. Yes, round of applause. Recorded the 101st just before we came on air to do this, because I'd forgotten to do it this morning. You see, this is what happens when we don't do the podcast at the normal time.
I know.
Everything else completely goes out the window, doesn't it? 100 videos. I can't quite believe I've got there, and I've only looked at my. It's not a cheat sheet. It's kind of a in case I can't think of anything to talk about sheet. I've got a whole list of stuff that I could dip into, and I've only dipped into that maybe twice over the course of time that I've been doing it. So since sort of mid-January, something like that, every weekday except for weekends, Well,
Yeah.
every weekday is not weekends. Every weekday except for bank holidays is what I mean to say on there. So one of the ones that I was talking about last week it was Fridays actually, and I entitled it "Take Your Medicine." And actually, I was moaning about myself more than anything else, except I wasn't moaning. Let me explain. I get hay fever, and for whatever reason, last week when I was in the supermarket, I looked at the antihistamine, the Piriton tablets, and thought, oh no, I'm sure I've got some at home, it'll be fine. And then
Not the Peloton.
No, not the Peloton. When I was talking to Sharon about this earlier, she said, Peloton? What are you looking for a Peloton in the super? No, Piriton. Piriton. I shall enunciate the words.
Yes.
And I'm looking at them and thinking, why on earth didn't I get any? Because my hay fever, the pollen count has been very high for a long time. And my hay fever has been raging. And on Friday, so I did my video and said, look, you won't hear me moan about my hay fever because it's my own fault. I didn't take my medicine. For whatever reason, I didn't buy any, so I'm going to the supermarket later, so I shall definitely be buying some. Just in time for the weather to break, right? I'll buy it and the pollen will go away. But my point that I was making, which you summed up really nicely with this idea of victim mentality, and sometimes it is possible for us to get kind of stuck in this spiral of blaming external circumstances for things not going right for us, when in reality we have all the tools within our reach to do something about the situation. Now, this is not to be confused, I don't think, with having a good old moan, because sometimes having a good old moan can be fantastically cathartic, but there is a difference between having a moan and being a consistent moaner, wouldn't you say? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Tell us your thoughts, Sharon.
Well, it's funny how it's kind of popped up quite a lot. I mean, I read about it a lot in various books that I read, or different courses. This one of the key factors for a successful business or a successful life is this about taking responsibility for your own stuff.
Yeah.
And not blaming other people or circumstances for how things turn out or how you feel. I mean, this business about and I learned this through all the work that obviously I've been doing with Michael Neal, and it's an obvious thing, but it's a revelation. It was a revelation to me about nobody can make you feel anything.
Yeah.
It's like and reflecting back on how I've kind of behaved this last week, I completely slipped back into that.
Yeah.
Because really, most of the time I do try and distance myself and go, yeah, nobody can make me feel like that, because it's, you can look at two different events and you can choose to look at it one way, or you can choose to look at it another way.
Yeah.
And it's about, what you're thinking, how you think will sort of dictate how you respond to it. So, but all that went out the window this week, because I was feeling crap because, my house sale had fallen through because of these stupid people and all the rest of it. And actually, reflecting back, that kind of, I didn't need to feel like that. My week didn't really need to go downhill in the way that it did. The only person that I have to blame for that is myself, because I allowed it to happen.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't have done,
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's not fall into the trap of shouldn't or shoulding ourselves either.
No. But it's not. It doesn't. It's not a great thing to do, because actually, other people don't make you feel anything. The only person that can make you feel anything is you.
Yeah.
Because you're the person who has the thoughts, and it's the thoughts that lead to the feelings.
Completely. And I think that's a really important part of it, isn't it? Is how you think about things, how you choose to think about things. I mean, for me, same thing. I for years. I mean, I remember saying to, let me think, would have been the early 2000s. Somebody who was working for me was consistently moaning about other people and all the rest of it, and I was trying to work into the conversation. Look, I have all felt, my philosophy has been and has been for a long time, I am where I am as a result of the choices I've made. right? So yeah, I made certain choices which meant I ended up in certain places, or didn't move on to other places, or did move on to other places, went for a job, didn't go for a job, you know, went out one evening, didn't go out one. All of those choices have conspired to put me in the position I'm in and be the person that I am right now. And you know, to not take responsibility for that, or to assume that, you know, there is nothing I can do about it, I think is a really dangerous thing. And the thing that really helped me, you're saying about Michael Neal, the thing that really helped me was doing my NLP studies. Not so much that it was new information, but it was a new framework on which to hang some of the things I'd already been thinking, and to enhance. And also there was new stuff in there as well. So, you know, I do catch myself consistently if I get a bit grumpy with somebody, if I'm driving or something like that. It's like, am I grumpy at them, or am I grumpy because I'm late? In which case, that was my choice to not leave on time, or whatever. And it can be really interesting to catch yourself thinking those things. But I do think there is a difference between choosing to feel a certain way about something. Well, not a difference, but it's a different thing to choose to feel a certain way about something, and to be consistently blind to your own impact on where you are and what's going on, and how things are happening for you or not happening for you. So it's always somebody else's fault, or it's always you know, I'm in this situation and I can't get out of it. And it's like there are very few, for us as, you know, people in the developed world, running our own businesses, there are very few situations or circumstances in a free society where we have absolutely no choice about what we're doing and where we're going and how it's happening. Very few. You know, and I think to allow ourselves to fall too much into the trap of, oh, but I can't get out of this, is just doing such a disservice to ourselves, because you absolutely can get out of it. You know, when I was training people in NLP, one of the things I would say to them is, do you have to go to work tomorrow? You know, assuming it was a weekday. And people go, oh yeah, no you don't. And they sort of look at me like this. You don't. You have a choice. You don't have to go into work. What you are doing is choosing to go because you don't like the consequences of not going. Right? So let's not have any of this, oh, I've got to work, I've got to do it. No, you don't. You absolutely don't have to do that. But just take ownership of the fact that you are choosing to do it because you don't like the consequences of what else is there. It's like people moaning about the job they've got. Oh, I can't stand my job, hate it. Well, change it.
Oh, totally.
You know,
I totally believe in that. As big believer in that. I don't ever want to be one of those people who moans about things but then won't do anything about it.
Exactly.
You know, like,
that's the point, isn't it?
Know,
that is the point. It's, you know, by all means have a moan, but do something about it. If you're choosing not to do something about it, then frankly, I'm not very interested in hearing you moaning. I will lend an ear to anybody that needs to get something off of their chest. Absolutely fine, no problem. But my question after you've done that bit is, what are you going to do about it? You know, how are you going to deal with it? You know.
Yeah, totally. But also a really, really powerful question, I think, to ask yourself. If you are, you know, before you start blaming other people, before you start, you know, blaming events and circumstances that you, on the surface of it, you believe are outside your control, is, you know, what is my part in this? Because if you're really, really honest with yourself, you always will have a part in it, because, you know, going back to the energy thing again, you kind of, you know, you get back what you put out there. So, you know, we've got a situation this week. You know, I noticed that there's been a post in the Training Sort Local Leaders group about the fact that, you know, a couple of the events haven't got any bookings. And, you know, it's very easy. You know, my first thought is would be, and one thing I've sort of said to them would, oh, well, you know, May and June are just funny months, aren't they? You know, it's like, oh, you know, and I think one person put there, oh, yeah, people are just reluctant to engage online, or, we can say all those things, and there may or may not be any truth in it, but we also need to ask ourselves a question, or I do, you know, what is my part in this? You know, what is my part in this? So, you know, could it be that the same amount of energy was not being put into those events? You know, could it be that, you know, emails weren't sent out? Could it be that, you know, whatever? Not saying that necessarily that I don't want to stop blaming other people. I'm talking about me. What is my part in this? And there will always be something which will, if you ask yourself that question, you can, then it will get you to think about it in a different
completely
way.
And I think your point there is absolutely spot on. We are absolutely not saying if something doesn't work, look for what other people's energy has been. No, look for your own energy. We have to look inwardly first, as opposed to anywhere else, right? I think you're absolutely right. It is about, understanding what impact you have had on that situation. If you can't find anything, you can't find anything. This is not, self-flagellation. You're not trying to find a way to blame yourself. You're just trying to find a way to understand, what impact, where was your intention? Where was your attention? Where was your energy being focused or being directed? And if it wasn't directed in the direction where you wanted something to happen, think about why that was, and take ownership, take responsibility of that. It doesn't mean that you have to go around blaming yourself or walk around with a ball and chain or anything like that. It just means you have to recognize it so that you can do something about it in the future. Equally, you were saying earlier about how being disappointed with yourself for some of your reactions last week. But I wouldn't go too far down that path of being disappointed. I think it's just a question of recognising it and thinking, okay, I will try next time. I'm start to feel those feelings, try and recognise it earlier and do something about it earlier. Because, we none of us are masters of this stuff. It's all a constant,
ongoing work, isn't it?
Exactly. I know that I'm that much further forward than I was 5 years ago, and I hope to be the same again in 5 years' time. But it doesn't mean that I'll have it cracked. And even, I trained with one of the founders of NLP, John Grinder. He's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And he invented this way of thinking, So but equally, one of the things that we were talking about when we were discussing this as a potential subject is I think that there are extremes so there's another end to the scale for this. So at one end is victim mentality and constantly thinking that your woes are down to everybody else and other circumstances and there's nothing you can do about it. At the other end of the scale, I think there is this concept of taking too much responsibility for something and trying to or believing that you can influence absolutely everything, because there are some things that are within our sphere of control and some things that are out of our sphere of control, and I think it's recognizing what those things are and then understanding how you adapt and how you respond and how you deal with those things. That's the bit that you can do something about. Sometimes the life happens and there isn't anything you can do about what's happened, but what you can do something about is your reaction to it and your response to it and your behaviour following it, right?
The classic, as my son's old tennis coach always used to say, control the controllables. Feel it in them every time they went on court, just only focus on that, just control what you can control.
Completely. I mean, I used to, one of my part-time jobs around university, I worked in a snooker club and did that for many years, made some very good friends doing that. But one of the things that that the perceived wisdom or received wisdom or whatever it was for snooker players, you cannot do anything about what happens when the other guy's at the table.
You can't
do anything about that. Right? It's short of cheating.
Unusual. It's quite an unusual sport in that respect, isn't it?
Yeah.
So all you can do is just sit down and watch, but you can't do anything.
There's nothing you can do to influence it. The only thing you can influence is what happens when you're at the table. And I think that's a really interesting way of looking at it, isn't it? But I'm sure that every sport has, because as we have discussed on many occasions, and we're not going back to the tennis, but we have discussed on many occasions that it's what goes on up here in the mind that distinguishes the very top, the elite in their field, for sure. For sure. Brilliant. All right, have we done that one justice? Do we have any more?
So just hopefully give you a little bit of food for thought there, which is what we always try to do on this podcast.
Definitely.
Just stir that pot a little bit, you know. And,
Get the little grey cells going. Exactly, exactly. All right, so Dog Walking Digest. What's been going on with Jem this week?
well, she's been all right. She's very hot
Yeah.
yesterday, you know, as you can imagine. So lots of panting going on, you know, and whatnot. But managed to, you know, get her out for a little walk and go in the stream and stuff like that. But other than that, she's been all right. She's been enjoying barking at the builders, you know, of course.
Of course.
Of course. But one thing, it's not entirely related. Well, it's not to do with Jem's dog. It's not to do with Jem dog, but to do with another dog, which is Ian, my trainer's dog. He told me this really funny story on Friday.
Yeah.
You know, I've been talking about the sheep problem.
Yes.
These sheep
randomly roaming.
And he lives across the road from me. Well, I say across the road. He lives over the road.
Yeah. Round the corner. Yeah.
Literally 2 minutes walk from my house. And on Friday morning at 5:30 in the morning, he woke up to find that the sheep were in his garden.
Oh my goodness.
That poor sheep in his garden. And so what did he do? He thought it was a really, really, sensible thing to open the door and let his dog run out.
No. What sort of dog has he got?
A very young, she's only 2.
Oh no.
She just goes bonkers. Yeah. So what did she do?
Of course.
Chase the sheep.
Yeah.
Of course. They do. So the sheep went, and so the sheep then literally turned tail, ran out of his garden, ran onto the main road.
Oh God.
So what did he have to do? He was running up the road at 5:30 in the morning in his joggers. Back onto the common, and eventually managed to, basically he didn't do anything. He was just running after them. It was like his dog was chasing them. Fortunately, she chased them back in the direction of the common, but it was on the road. It's a good job it was 5:30.
Absolutely. Good grief.
And so anyway, so he shouted at she once sheep disappeared, he managed to get back on the lead.
Yeah.
And get her in the house and everything. At which point he took her off the lead when she got back in the house, and she went there and sat beside a treat cupboard like, oh, I was really clever, give me a treat now.
Well, that's the way they think, I got rid. You opened the door so I could get rid. I got rid. What do you want from me?
Please, not I'm clever.
Oh, that's so funny. That is hilarious. I just
had this vision of him running down the road at 5:30 after the sheep.
Definitely. That reminds me of many years ago when Mum and John had first moved in and I'd first got Scamp. So it must have been the first summer that I had him, something like that. And we were sitting out in the garden having breakfast, and I think we'd done a lawn clear up, and I'd opened the back gate to put it in the wheelie bin. And he decided he was going to escape, so he slithered past me and started trotting up the road towards the farm. And I've got my dressing gown on, and that's it. So I'm like, okay, come back. And he's looking at me like terriers, like all dogs do, like, come on then, it's a game. So every time I got close, he trotted further away. I'm thinking, oh my word, this is how I want to be introduced to their neighbours. Is hi, yes, I do just have my dressing gown. Is my dog? Yes, no collar. Yes. Oh dear. Oh dear,
but yeah, that did make me smile on Friday. There's one thing that just, but one thing's for certain, they probably won't come back.
No. Oh, well, you never know. Sheep aren't known for their great intellect, are they? But anyway.
Poor things, just frighten the life out of them.
Why on earth did he let his dog out? Oh,
I have no idea.
Fool. Foolish boy.
Oh,
so apart from being hot, Jem's all right, and she hasn't worried any sheep. Would she? Would she worry sheep?
No, because I'm not that stupid to let anyone hear them.
Fair enough.
Put them on the lead. That's what I do.
Yeah, exactly. I think Scamp has seen cows out the car window. He's seen horses, hares, pheasant, squirrels. Don't think he's seen sheep. We've definitely crossed, we've gone down a road where there have been sheep in a field, but I don't think he's actually seen the sheep, if that makes sense.
It just reminded me. I have got another tale of a walk last night involving a squirrel. That's So we've gone up this little hill, and you can imagine this sort of little ginnel just sort of rounded the corner. There's this little ginnel there, and it was bizarre. It was really bizarre. This squirrel was just sat in the middle of this ginnel, just sort of looking at us like, with eating something, and kind of like, I'm like, oh, hello, I sort of walked a little bit further on, at which point the squirrel hadn't seen that Jem was behind me, so the squirrel was just kind of like, oh, hello, like we're going to have a nice little conversation. Next minute, the squirrel saw Jem, literally tried to leap. So there was a fence, obviously, with this, there was a fence there. Literally, this started panicking, but tried to jump onto this fence and just like fell off again.
Oh no! Oh no!
I've never seen a squirrel like miss a fence like that. And so then he was like, oh, and he had another go, and then then he got to the top of the thing, and then he disappeared. It was like, and there was a roof. There was a massive fence in the roof. And he'd clearly done like a James Bond type thing and just trying to launch himself, trying an attempt to reach this roof, but didn't make it.
That's hilarious.
Like, where is the poor little squirrel who's down on the floor like, oh.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Traumatic. It was hilarious. I've never actually seen a squirrel, because they always make it look so easy, don't they? But this one, clearly, in its panic, just didn't, just misjudged everything.
Oops. Oh, poor squirrel.
See when you're out on your walk.
I saw. I mean, it must have been on Facebook. One of these videos. I don't know how, but they're. I mean, it's Facebook, so they know how to make things addictive. But you end up watching something, and it shows you the whole lot of videos. And I managed to click onto one where this guy had built this whole like squirrel obstacle course in his back garden, and proper obstacle trying to get through and all the rest of it. It was amazing, and he filmed it. There was a group of 3 or 4 of them, and he'd given them all names and worked out what their different speciality skills are and all this kind of stuff. And just as they go through and learn from each other as to how to get where and get what and all the rest of it. And he said, look, if they get this, then they get to keep all the walnuts at the end of it, frankly, because they've done really well. And it was amazing. It was really good. I'll have to try and look it out and send it to you. It just reminded me of that. They are quite ingenious where food's concerned, but then so are dogs.
Oh, they are.
Where food and where their tennis ball or their chuck-it ball is concerned. Mum told me a story about Copper, where his favourite game is to get his ball. He has balls for the outside and balls for the inside, and he's not meant to mix them up. So he had the outside balls, but his favourite game is to get the outside ball when you're sitting outside and to put it in a really awkward spot, usually under the barbecue or behind a couple of pots of flowers, in between the pots and the sleepers next to the garden, the raised garden. And he'll put them there, and then he'll just kind of look at you as if to say, well, you have to get it out for me now. It's like, you put it there, mate. But anyway, so Mum's got 2 normal pots, and then one of these plastic hanging basket things. So it's got the 3 strands with the hook on the end. And he'd put the ball behind the 3 pots. And he's sort of looking at her and looking at this and looking at her and looking at this.
This sounds like something Jem would. Jem does the same thing.
So she's going, no, I'm not going to get it for you. You have to get it yourself, like this. So he's looking at it, and he's and he's standing on the grass and trying to dip down and get his hand paw down and all the rest of it. And then as he looked at the 3 pots, and he looked at the one on the right, which was with the bits coming up for the hanging basket, picked it up in his mouth, moved it to one side, got behind, got his ball out, right? And then came up to her and dropped it and went, well, come on then, throw it for me. Like this.
Yeah. That is just so Jem.
You know how to get the ball. Why are you making such a fuss? A, you put it in there in the first place yourself, and then B, you act like you have no idea how to get it out again. So cheeky. So blooming cheeky. Anyway. All right. So,
on that note,
yes, shall we?
On that note, we've had sheep, squirrels, And dogs.
Yeah, I mean, you know, all sorts of wildlife. It's Wildlife Podcast, come back again. Brilliant. Well, thank you, everybody, for your time, your patience, your ears, or your eyes, or your ears and your eyes, depending on how you are consuming this podcast. Always available. But thank you, as always, and do get in touch if anything that we've talked about has struck a chord with you, you want to share a story, or there is something that you would like us to talk about in a future episode. We're very happy to take suggestions as well. Save us thinking on a Monday. But yeah, thanks very much, and we'll see you again next time. Take care. Bye.
Bye.